Welcome to the Unquestioned podcast with Debaere and Willem Himpe. And today we are already on episode 13. Yes, and we have some amazing topics for you. And what I'm gonna say, it's the first time where both of the hosts are in real life next to each other. So Louis, tell me, how was America? And you're finally back. Do you miss it? And what is the major difference now turning back?
I do miss it. And the biggest change feels like a change of pace. Time moves more slowly here, less rush than in the Big Apple. And I also miss the bagels, to be honest.
The bagels,
I had the greatest bagels in the world in both New York and Montreal.
Okay, which one was the best? Because there's like a little rivalry going on between those cities.
I'm gonna give Montreal a little edge on this one.
Okay, America's not gonna like to hear that. One of the most competitive country in the world. But let's get straight on with the topic of today. And today we're gonna talk about getting hired as an engineer at the big tech. And I feel like it's only obvious that I'll let you speak in the beginning of what was your process, or what is the kind of general process of getting hired at one of the big tech companies?
Yeah, surprisingly there is a bit of a pattern, and there's a few steps that most companies share. You get used to that. And the initial step, a lot of people forget, I'll call it step 0, is just getting an answer, a response from HR. That's usually the biggest hurdle, I feel like. So obviously people will try to sign up to work at Airbnb, Netflix, all these crazy companies, but only a very small percentage get the chance to actually go through the interview process, let alone get hired.
Did you as well just send in your application because usually I in the beginning studied economics, and the best way to get into any of the big companies is know an insider, get your CV, let's say, more higher on the stack. Was it in a similar way, or how was it?
No, I heard that definitely helps if people know you from Twitter, for example. But I did not know people on the inside for mine. It's just once you get enough relevant experience, your CV.
It's automatically as well raised on
right,
stack.
Yeah, that's right. So the first thing is to just get a response from HR, and then you usually have a quick phone call, short meeting, just to see if HR just has a quick shit test, a sanity check to see, hey, are you for real? Are you not shitting them?
Or you're not a fake engineer and have no clue.
Does it match up? You really have 35 years of experience as a team. And then they check from your side. They want to know, are your salary expectations in range? Have you understood that you have to move or not move? Is this a remote role or not? Do you have the necessary visa requirements? I have a spicy story about that for later. But
so like I'm hearing, it's not really like requirements. It's more like a requirements check, but not really like a culture fit or like a nice conversation to get to know the person.
No, it's just an initial approach, like just seeing, testing the waters, seeing if you're for real, and just removing as many questions as possible so we don't get stuck down the line. But nothing stressful about this one. Just seeing if you're a real person.
And if you're a real person, what is then the next step?
Yes, and then the first step will be a technical interview. So at least for software engineering, it's very meritocratic. So it doesn't really matter what your CV says. You also always have to prove that you have the technical chops. And I assume that for design, it's a technical design related task or question. And this might be surprising. Why would they start with this? Well, it's because most people, this is still around where they try to get rid of as many people as possible. So a lot of people fail the initial test, and that's why they don't bother getting to know you better or seeing if you're a culture fit, because it doesn't really matter if you fail the technical test. And so step 1 will be, usually it's 2 people, one more senior person leading the interview, and then someone else, or sometimes it's just one, but it's always somebody that works at the company.
Yes.
So it's very rare that you'll have
recruiters outsource.
yeah,
It's always someone
dedicated
within.
technical people. That's either like when they outsource it, it's going to be a test, so a few questions, a quiz. But yeah, the HR person might like check if you know some concept, but usually they are not technical.
Could you give an example of one of those questions that they would ask? Is it very practical where you have to break down stuff, or is it just like definitions of technical terms? Maybe give some examples.
So now for the real real interview, yes. So again, they all follow a similar playbook. You've got two types. You have the classic algorithms and data structures. They should sound familiar to anybody that's followed a computer science course. And on the other hand, you've got platform design. What's it called? Yeah, a different one that's more about architecture.
Yeah.
So the algorithms and data structures, and then architecture. And usually you'll start with algorithms, data structure, and there, when it's in person, it's just like where you're sitting. It's on a whiteboard. Usually quite stressful because they are literally like judging you, looking at you. And when it's remote, it's in a shared text file, so they see what you're typing. They're literally looking at your hands, at what you're typing on the screen.
Yeah, they ask you, for example, a basic recursive function or something that you have to code, and then they look at every step you do. And in real life, could you explain that? So it's just a whiteboard, and they just start writing code on the board, or is it more like your thought process?
So on the one hand, the contents are easy. Most of the time, it's a really easy and simple problem to solve in an inefficient way, to brute force your way through. And so, but the best thing is to start with that. Is to just say, hey, here's the naive solution, just so you have something.
Yes.
Before you start optimizing. That's also what you want to do in real life, because early optimization is the root of all evil. So first, make sure the problem works, and then it works well.
That's with every kind of company.
That's
the problem
true. That's advice for life. For life, only start optimizing when you've measured. But here, they're definitely looking for you to optimize it. So it means that in a real life application, pull to refresh or something, or scrolling is just going to be laggy. So they want you to see. They want to see that you're going to go that extra level.
Okay.
And it's very important during the interview that you don't stay silent. They really want you to tell them what you're thinking, because what we want to understand is not only that you're a code monkey, but that you understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, and they want to see the process in your head. So it's more like a conversation, really. It's like this podcast. It's going back and forth. It's saying, hey, right now I'm doing this because this was my assumption. And usually they'll nod, or they can ask, okay, interesting. Do you see any other approaches? So it should be a conversation on how to get to this efficient step.
And it's as well as logical, because, for example, often these algorithm data structure questions are often very similar, so the person could have just learned the different function by heart and the most optimized way, but then have no clue how it really works. And that's probably why they do it, but as well to see that the person break down every step in normal language, so that it's that even the person understands it. And then because otherwise you'll be quiet for a minute and then you just write something down. Okay, what now?
Totally, the most creative ones will like make a little story out of it, or make it relevant to the company. Like on Netflix, they'll ask you something about downloading a bunch of movie titles, and the best ones have an actual problem that they addressed inside the company. I've heard of those, so that's obviously very cool. So at Tinder, they could ask you about matching algorithm, or Twitter, they could ask you how to efficiently load a list of tweets. But again, they really want to know how you think. And sometimes certain interviewers have enough by you just shouting what data structure you're going to use. Like a common one is a map, also called a dictionary, hash map. Sometimes it's just enough to say hash map, and they're like, okay,
yes,
we know you get it.
Yeah.
And so the first thing you want to do is kind of remove all the unnecessary details from the story, get to the math side of it, and then figure out, okay, what algorithm, how am I going to represent the data? Is this a list? Is this a graph, like a map of Uber drivers that should connect? What kind of data structure is this? That will get you very far, and communicate that to your interview so they see.
Okay.
And it's very important that you work with them, because they might give you tips. Like if they see you going in the right direction or in the wrong direction, they'll point you back, and they will help you. They actually want you to succeed. Okay. So that's very important. It's not a like you were wrong. It's not. That's not it. They really want to help you get to a solution.
That's good. And then now, kind of the difference between purely online and purely offline with a whiteboard. What is the benefits? Like with one, you can run the code when it's online, for example, and immediately see what it is. Do they do that? Yes or no? And then an offline is as well. It's kind of, it's weird to write code with a pen on a whiteboard. Eh?
Totally. I've never done an actual coding interview in live, so I couldn't tell you. I do think it's stressful, but might be more human, because you actually see the people that you're talking to. Sometimes they won't even turn on their camera, so it feels weird to have like a voice. But on both of them,
and it's an extra test, I would say. If it's in real life, you're more stressful, and on the job you'll as well be more stressful, and you can see how does a person handle stress. Oh no, there's a bug, we need to fix it. And then as well, you have to code a little bit under stress, and that's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and on the computer, they will use like a special tool or website where they can see what you type. So, or if it's a design thing, they might use a digital whiteboarding tool like Miro or Mural or FigJam. So yeah, there are tools, but it's stressful in both of them, I can tell you that.
Are there actually different approaches between the big tech companies? Of, for example, you work at Spotify, but on Facebook, Google, how are the processes differently, and kind of could you share some knowledge on that?
So there's always this culture of the company, like back from when they started in the garage, that's ingrained into everything they do. So they'll usually give some extra edge to certain things. For example, Google being more academic, Apple more focused on design, and they all have different approaches. So Apple, at Apple, or at least it used to be this way, each team can do the interview process differently. So they're all responsible. They can give you a take-home assignment, or do it live, or have 5 rounds, or only 2 rounds, for example. Whereas Facebook works completely differently. They have a single track per technical profession. So for iOS engineers, for example, there's a single place where you sign up and a single test that everyone does before you even get assigned to your team or to your project, like WhatsApp, Instagram. So everybody follows the same
line or the
pipeline,
same
and a lot of them drop off. And at the end, it's only at the end that
actually
to the you or your, sometimes you pick your team, and sometimes your manager picks your team that you get assigned to WhatsApp. So that's, I mean, interesting that they divide it up based on what you do.
It's probably as well an efficiency.
Again, the different approaches. There's pros and cons to both. But at Apple, you start up with the team immediately, and they all have a different process.